This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 572 with guest Marv Bee, recorded on May 11th, 2023. Thought it was next year. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in beautiful Bellevue, Nebraska, my favorite time of the year. In fact, I've already been on the deck for 2 hours, but you don't care. We'll post the show with world-class show notes out at the AverageGuy.tv. Don't forget, this show's affiliate sponsor for May is Nespresso, and a couple of you have taken advantage of this. Use the code MQU328. It's on the site as well. I have a new sponsor tab at the AverageGuy.tv. Hit sponsors. You can see that one there, and check it out. You get $40 off your first Nespresso machine if you haven't done it yet. They'll send you a little container for the pods, and stop drinking bad coffee. Give it a try today. Nespresso, nice little machine. I make coffee every morning with the Nespresso. It's my first cup of coffee before I get to work, and then I use work-free coffee, or I'll make it as I'm perking coffee, and then I'll drink my perk coffee. Marv, are you a coffee guy? What do you do for coffee?
I'm a coffee guy, but I was going to ask you, did you upgrade your coffee because of George Clooney or because of Aaron?
Oh, well, Aaron shamed me. Let's be really.
I think she shames all of us.
Let's be really clear about this. She shamed me when she was on the show, and I said I drink day-old coffee, and the horror on her face was, I'm like, oh, am I not supposed to do that? Like, is that not okay? Would you drink day-old? Would you rewarm day-old coffee?
And me, no.
No.
God, no. And if she's listening.
Well, I do. I'm not proud of it, but I do it from time to time. If I've got a little left in the perk, just pour it in a cup of coffee, throw it in the microwave. And
I switched to a Keurig a long time ago just to have the convenience of fresh coffee without the pot. Although Keurig does make, I think it's called the Keurig Duo, where you can do the pods or a pot. I did that for my family reunion last year. I've been on this kick now to try to be a little more healthy. So I just ordered some organic beans and a grinder so that I can actually grind my beans fresh.
Yeah. I like it.
And I've then I have sticks of cinnamon that I also grind up. So I use the cinnamon in there, a little bit of turmeric, and I'm looking for something to replace the creamer.
Okay. Oh, we'll have to work on that one for you to figure out what's the criteria? Are you just looking for a creamer that's not as bad for you as like heavy cream or some of those cream replacements? Okay.
Yeah. So I started looking at cocoa powder or something like that.
Okay.
So it was recommended to me a while back to just do that in place of coffee. And I tasted one and I'm like, oh no, not.
Yeah.
So I had been putting that in with the coffee for a while, but it's not really a creamer or sweetener. Because I do like it a little sweet. So I got to figure something.
Yeah. During the pandemic, I went completely just straight black coffee, and I didn't think I'd like it at first, but it was just so delicious, especially perked. It was really good. And I've had an espresso for a while, and I used Nespresso mostly to make lattes. So I was adding milk to it. So,
okay.
But then I started buying their regular pods, and, they've got Mexico and Colombia, and then they've got a bunch of specialty pods you can get. And I've kind of given up creamer altogether. I really don't even add cream. I used to go into work and 2 pumps of vanilla and then on the work coffee. And it doesn't taste good to me anymore. So maybe do like a week where you just go completely creamer free. See if you can go.
I've done a few of them,
okay.
But I got my sugar down to 1 Truvia packet.
Okay. Yep.
So I backed off on that. And when I do use the cocoa powder, I don't put creamer in. So I'm working at it. But I do the coffee has to be flavored. So I'm a hazelnut French vanilla guy.
Yeah.
So still working on it.
Bob's one producer. Bob is wondering if 33 to 36% whipping cream, maybe. No, that's not. That's the other direction. That's the other direction you're trying to go. Well, I do. I tell you what, I do like my Nespresso first thing. Like I can cut half asleep, pop it open, put the pot in, shut it, put the cup underneath it, hit the button, walk away for a few minutes, and I can come back and have a delicious cup of coffee. So check it out, MQU328, if you want to give it a try. Big thanks to Jay Franzi, who joined me last week. And he's out in the chat right now. We had a big chat about fire pits and actually got more dirt dug out around my fire pit. So Jay, thanks for a little motivation. Actually, my kids did it. Again, my kids. They came over, two of them came over last weekend and were helping me dig out the fire pit. They're pretty awesome. But Jay, thanks for coming on last week. And then, of course, big thanks to our Patreon subscribers. If you're finding value in Home Gadget Geeks and you want to give back, you don't have to. It's okay. But if you want to, there's a way to do that. Patreon. Go to theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. You can do it for 1 month or as long as you want. Available out there for you. I mentioned him earlier, but Marv Bee is back. The IT Business Podcast at the itbusinesspodcast.com. Marv, always great to be with you. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for saying yes to this crazy podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I told you a long time ago that I need to kind of be involved in these types of podcasts because even though I'm in the business of IT, I'm not the IT geek outside of work. So, the discovery of things that I need to do at home, I'm getting from you guys. So, the sprinkler, tech was one thing I did. Listening to the cutting the cord type conversations that you guys have. Those are all things that I don't get at work. So I'm getting them from you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. And listen, I get them. This is every time I try to quit this podcast, I forgot to change the number again. We're at 572. By the way, 572. Sorry about that. I that's what happens when you have a cocktail or two on the deck before the show. I always forget to change that. So 572. But I also get, a lot of the things I've done, I think about Erin and some of her recommendations and, as far as what folks, Dave McCabe came on, we talked about he's making now those little wood smokers for cocktails where you put it on top of the cocktail, put a few wood shavings on it, light it up, and then it adds smoke to the cocktail. And that's like he's cutting that on he has a CNC machine at home and he's cutting it on that. Super cool. Like you think this dude made this at home. This is kind of cool. Wow. So anyways, lots of great stuff and I get it too. Let's talk
on that same vein. Yeah. So I almost stopped my podcast where I thought, I think I've, run the course. There's so many other tech podcasts out there, but every now and then you get questions from a listener or thank yous from a listener that they've listened and took your advice. And from a business perspective, it's always great when they can sit there and say, hey, I was thinking of quitting, but, I'm listening to your show and it's given me ideas to reinvigorate my business, or I made a choice change on my stack and, made a world of difference. So listen, it's a labor of love, but you've got a following and, they'll let you know when it's time to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't had anybody send me an email saying a little long in the tooth, yet. I should mention Dan Lefebvre is out in the chat right now. Dan is actually a sponsor for Ask the Podcast Coach, which I do on Saturday mornings. More podcasting than tech, but I get to have I have a geek segment in there from time to time where Dave lets me geek out. But Dan is a sponsor for the mug for that. He's at basedonatruestorypodcast.com. If you are looking for another podcast to listen to and you want, and Dan's been on the show before, but and he's coming up here in a couple weeks or maybe next week. If you're looking for another podcast to listen to, or you're just kind of a movie geek, Dan's would be a great podcast to listen to based on a true story podcast, all one word.com. Check out Dan. Dan, thanks for your sponsorship on that. He's been sponsoring that mug for a long time, a while, and it sent me a really good mug, and I appreciate it. So, Dan, good to have you. And good to see Rich Hay is out there. Rich has been on the show before. Rich, it's probably time to get you back on as well. KDJ coming over from Jay's show. Bob Carpenter's out there. I saw Tony a little bit earlier. Alex checking in. I haven't seen Ken yet tonight, which usually checks in, but good to see all you guys. So great fun to come out and be a part of all the things tech related. Marv, so you're a small business IT guy. You just kind of admitted maybe you're not a gadget junkie, or you're maybe you're not as into that, but certainly you're in the business of IT. ChatGPT, which Jay and I talked about a couple weeks ago, keeps coming up in this, has really lit up the world of what I kind of call AI for the average guy, right? If you go to OpenAI, I think it's at chat.openai.com, you can sign up now, get in and try some of the things they're doing. But as you think about small business owners and now the power that they have through OpenAI or through ChatGPT and some of those things, it's been a couple months. Are they talking about it to you? Are you hearing about some of this? And what areas is it getting interesting? Or talk a little bit about that. What are you hearing?
Well, we're definitely hearing about it, and it's coming basically from two fronts. The main front is for the types of businesses like mine, which are called managed service providers, where we provide, IT services to businesses, not just as, a single tech in a corporate business. So there's a lot of AI that's now being built into our products. Now we've seen, AI in stuff before with all the chat bots when you go to websites, hey, can I help you? Or when you call in to a support line or, order something online. A lot of that stuff is, AI generated bots. So it's been there. So now that's all flowing into the tech space where a lot of our stuff, it used to be when we would have in our, what we call our dashboard. So we have all of our clients in a dashboard. We have all the servers, workstations that we can connect to if we need to for remote support. We have our antivirus protection, our web protection, and we get alerts if something comes up. If a drive is running out of hard drive space, we would get an alert, and we would have to write a script to say, hey, when this alert pops up, go clean the hard drive. Clean out temp files, do all that stuff. Well, now AI is starting to be built into it, so we don't have to write those scripts. It just goes out and does it. And so now those companies are trying to figure out, okay, how can we leverage AI to make the jobs of techs easier? So that's the one side. The other side is the end users, the business owners, or the users in the business can just go out themselves and start searching. Hey, I want to do this. I don't want to call the tech. Can I just go in here and, hey, can you write me a script on how to bypass the DNS filter?
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be a battle for us in that regard, because a big chunk of our job, not that it'll be taken away when it comes to management and design, but there's going to either be a lot of stuff that the end user themselves can do because of that. And a lot of techs will probably just say, hey, yeah, you can do that. Just go out here and do this. Or it's going to create more work for us because they're going to go out and do something and AI might be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's, I think, an important point. And I was going to mention that, like, not everything in ChatGPT is true. Right. And so you've really got to kind of take it with caution going in, because like you said, as an example, you could say, how could I, this would be a query you could do. How could I update the Windows registry to allow me to do this?
Yep.
Right. And it may give you a really solid answer that looks right and is not right at all. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the user feels empowered and then can go in and update, make that registry edit. Can you imagine if you gave AI the rights to do the edit itself and you told it to do that, and then it started opening things, and like it is right sometimes, but do you want your users necessarily doing some of those advanced things just based on what the AI tells them?
Well, no. And that's why we lock down workstations so that users don't have admin privileges on their station, which is a battle that's been going on for years. Why do I have to call you just to update QuickBooks?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but we can't allow that to happen. So again, there's software out there that we can put on stations where we can give those users, hey, you can update this, 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 and this, but nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
It's an extra cost, but that's available.
I mentioned it before, I think on this show. I can't remember where I talked about it, but I asked ChatGPT to give me some sources, some source links. Like, I think I was working on some Blue Iris stuff, and I said, what would be the 4 most helpful links for Blue Iris software? And it gave me 4 links. Not one of them was right. They were old links that Blue Iris has obviously updated their site. Since then, they didn't work. I actually didn't. I mean, I checked them a little too late. It wasn't too late, but it was after I'd posted it. And I was like, oh yeah, you gotta be. I think you gotta be really cautious. So like, what kind of questions from your business folks? What kind of questions are they asking you about AI?
So I'm not really using it a ton for my business yet. I know that there are other techs, and I'm kind of letting them blaze the trail for me. What I'm using it for is as conversation starters. If I need to write an email to a client about a process, I may just throw in there, okay, how can I say this in a nice, tender manner?
And write it in the tone of someone who cares, right?
Yeah. So I'm doing that. I'm using it to kind of help my social media posting.
Yeah.
Where I'll say, hey, write a Facebook post that talks about this, and it does it. It just cleans it up and sounds a little better. Now, could I have done it? Yes. And that's where the battle is going to be with all of these AI things. Is it's really stuff that we can do ourselves, but it's just going to be faster with that. But the scripting part is what I told you is happening.
Yeah.
And I have done a couple of times where I came across a problem that, normally I'd either go into one of my professional chat rooms and say, hey guys, any of you seen this? Or I might do a, hey Google, what do you know about this? But now it's like, well, let me go over here and hey, ChatGPT. But actually I started using another platform called Perplexity.
Talk about that a little bit. What is that?
Perplexity is basically the same thing. It's, I don't know who makes it, but it seems to be a much more updated platform. Whereas we know that ChatGPT, wasn't updated since 2021, although they're talking about opening it up and doing updates. Perplexity is up to date. So if you're looking for factual information, it's going to be able to access a lot more recent sites and a lot more recent sources than ChatGPT.
So for you, I threw the link in the chat room, so they have it. Perplexity, just like it sounds, perplexity.ai. And so you're finding, so its value to you is that it's more up to date, or is it giving you different answers?
Well, it is different answers, but it's a little more complete and accurate than ChatGPT, I'm finding. Now, I'm not asking it to go out and say, write me a podcast script on, coffee mugs or something like that, which people are starting to do. That's, something you and I need to be careful of. But Perplexity it seems like it's more like ChatGPT is more like Facebook, and Perplexity is more like LinkedIn. Seems to be a little bit more
more business oriented. Is that what you mean by
more
that?
business oriented, more professional, a little cleaner. It's not as muddled down as GPT. Sometimes you can go into ChatGPT and it's like, oh, sorry, we're busy.
That's true. If you're on the non-paid, and remember, you're on 3.5 of ChatGPT and not 4 unless you're on the paid version. This is Perplexity as we're looking at it. One of the questions I always I ask ChatGPT if it knows me. So I said, do you know Jim Collison from Home Gadget Geeks? And the answer is Jim Collison is the host of the Home Gadget Geeks podcast, which covers various tech gadgets that find their way into people's homes. Okay, I think I've written that somewhere, just to be honest. It's not. I don't think it's picking that up from podcasts, but the podcast features news, reviews, product updates, and conversation for the average tech guy. Now, it is citing sources there,
yes,
right?
It is. Yes. So, and below that, you'll see where it's pulling it from. It's the first two are Apple, then Anchor, learn out loud. So it's pulling from sources and putting this together. Now, what I had been doing is I would put the same question into Chat GPT and compare them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and this is a lot like Bing. Rich reminds us a little bit here in the chat. He says Bing service provide links with all its answers to the sources of the content in the reply,
Right.
which ChatGPT does not at this point. You can say cite your sources, but even those are a little questionable. Like if it sounds good, I've gone back and checked the sources and they're not exactly what I was looking for. I mean, we have to remember, I think, in a lot of ways, ChatGPT is a calculator. It's a language calculator. It's really good at making things sound right based on what it knows. Its language abilities are awesome. Its translation abilities are even better in a lot of ways. But its accuracy, it's a lot like me and a lot less like a professor in a college. When I don't know something, I make it up. When a professor doesn't know something, he says he doesn't know what it is, right? And I think in some regards this is it. But it does say it finishes. Jim Collison hosts the show with the lineup of other hosts and are live every Thursday night. Jim Collison is a contributor to the Average Guy Network. So pulling those all, that is Apple, Anchor, Learn Out Loud, and the AverageGuy.tv.
Yeah. Now, and that's the concise version. So if you go below that, see where the thumbs up or the thumbs down is, the next line in the middle is more detailed. So you can click that and it will expand and give more information. So you see now it gives you actually a link to your website.
Yeah. It looks a lot better too. You know, it's also got a related topics down here on the bottom. Yep. So what are some recent topics covered on, let's see if it gets this right. So we'll click on this and see. So recent topics covered on Home Gadget Geeks podcast include updates on home automation topics from Yolink. Is that how that's pronounced? Habitat and Blue Iris, as well as discussions on unrated Home Assistant. That's pretty good. That's not a bad. We talk about those things. Different ways they can be installed locally. In addition, the podcast has covered how technology can enhance your fire pit experience. From sound systems, this was Jay's podcast, from sound systems and outdoor speakers to televisions and smart home automation. Okay, so this is scary because this was last week.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It is pretty up to date.
Wow. How'd you hear about this?
I was doing a search. So when I went to go do Chat GPT for the first time, I kept getting we're busy. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be others. So I did a search and I said, what are some AI websites that are just like Chat GPT? This came up and nobody I knew had been talking about it. And I went to it and looked at it and I'm like, well, this is pretty good. Now, they actually have it to where you can sign up for the service, but this is all free. You're doing it all free.
Right.
And ChatGPT, they make you sign up to get in there. You don't have to here, but you can. Now, I just signed up, I think, on Monday, and I haven't yet figured out what the benefit to signing up is. But apparently, there's supposed to be some more options inside. And I think that's those options that you mentioned where you can say, hey, make your answer sound like this and I think that's in there. I just haven't had time to go in and look.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna mess with this for sure. Rich had asked this question a little bit earlier. Let me find it really here. He said, how do you approach attribution when using AI to generate these various posts? So Rich, for me personally, like for this post for this show, so it'll be at theaverageguy.tv/HGG572, even though it says 570 below. I'll say more from Chat GPT, and then I will put some things, Marv, about you that I pull out of Chat GPT, although I might use Perplexity for this week. So I've been searching my guests on Chat GPT to get some more information about them to see. So I give it credit in that case. I'll be honest, I don't give it credit every time when I'm using that material.
No, I think it depends on what you're doing with it. If there's something that you're really talking about that needs to be cited, then you can just, go to the links that this provides.
Yeah.
And use those. And I think you can download, maybe I'm thinking of another site, but being able to just, create a download with all the links, then you just take them and stick them in.
Well, this feels very Bingish, and Rich says Bing is up to date too, and so this feels a lot like the Bing instance. I wonder if they've got signed up some kind of partnership with Microsoft or something.
Yeah, it might be. I've just never, I've never been a Bing guy. I don't use any of the Microsoft stuff, so I don't know. Maybe it is.
Well, this opens a whole new world to me. Like all of a sudden, I had been using Swell.ai, which is a podcast based service where you can upload your audio and it will transcribe it and then do a bunch of add-on stuff for you. So it'll like, hey, here's some topics that you covered. Here's a show breakdown based on timestamps, right? I think it's $20 a month. They give you I think they give you 2 shows a month for free. So I've been using the free. Yeah, I've been using the free side of it for now just to kind of try it out. But Perplexity.ai this is interesting. Like then down below here, you can ask a follow-up question. So I guess you could say, like, has Jim ever done a show, we'll say with Marv Bee? Let's see what it comes back here. Yes, has done a show with Marv Bee, an episode of the Home Gadget Geeks podcast. Sat down with Marv, the host of IT Business Podcast, for an insightful conversation. They discussed the latest updates from Marv and talked about the exciting advancements in the DO
speakers. Yep.
DO speakers. That was the last time you were on, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's kind of scary, Marv.
Yeah.
This is good. Yeah. How come I've never heard about this?
Well, I mean, you probably heard about Bing. So if Bing's more popular than
well, I haven't used Bing very much. Yeah, I haven't used Bing as much. I don't like the interface for Bing. It's kind of so now when you go there, if you do a regular search, the screen will kind of scroll up and Bing is up, which is kind of strange, right? You go up and the Bing, the search is up there. But this is wow. This is, and I look here, it says in the past, Randy Walker, Gavin Campbell, Marv Bee, John Maddox, those are all within the last 3 months. That's pretty smart.
Yeah. And if you just, go down and say, does Jim do any other podcasts? I mean, you can just literally, as if it's like the conversation that Chat GPT is supposed to do, where you can just simply talk back and forth with this.
Yep. So Jim hosts several other podcasts, including Home Gadget Geeks, Gallup's Called the Coach, and Ask the Podcast Coach. Now, it's pulling off Podchaser, which is pretty interesting, right? That there's a lot of information about the podcast that I do, and that's interesting that it's being able to pull it from there
and see how fast they pulled.
Yeah. Yeah. What other, okay, so I've done this. This has been a vanity moment where I've done all these things about me. What other kinds of things would you use Perplexity for, do you think?
Again, I use it for I'll use it for my outline. So if I've got a guest, like you do guest research, you said with Chat GPT, I'll do, some outline searches in terms of, hey, tell me some highlights about this company that the person works for. Or if I find information that they were on another podcast or something, I may say, hey, give me a summary of this and that. So it helps me with research in that sense. So
Rich is making an interesting question. He says, so no statement then it was generated in whole or in part by AI. In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. Rich, just to be completely honest. But I've had this burning question. Marv,
no Microsoft stuff.
I have this burning question about AI. So as I think about if I was going to write something about, I was going to do a review on a product, I would probably go out and do a bunch of research and pull all these things together, right? And then I would write it in my own, write it in my own kind of way, right? Most work is just derivative work at this point in some of the stuff that we're doing. Am I necessarily going to, if I've written it completely in my language, am I necessarily going to give credit to those sites? In some cases, I should. I don't see a lot of bloggers doing it that way now. Certainly what I know about things, I might have read somewhere else and not know the source, but I'm now there's a saying, the first time I say someone said, the second time I say it's always said, the third time I say I've always said, right? All of a sudden that goes from a source to you're the source.
Yeah.
If this AI stuff is a word calculator, like if we do math, we don't necessarily give the calculator credit for doing, like, oh, by the way, I figured out this on a calculator. We don't say that. Do we need to say I figured this out, like AI figured this out for me on a word calculator, if we treat AI like a word calculator?
So this discussion is going to get much bigger because
for sure.
I've had the discussion. I mentioned that, will AI replace the real live podcaster? And if you go to YouTube and look now, there's a lot of videos on there where there's no person that you see on screen, but yet you see the text generated messages in an AI generated voice that's reading along with it. But they're not giving attribution to anything either. But those are getting very popular on YouTube. I know some and the reason I mentioned about the marketing. So in my industry, the big push is for business owners. If you want to market, you need to do so many LinkedIn posts or Facebook posts. You need to do video. And I've caught some of them where they'll get on and do a 2 to 3 minute video and they're reading. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I'll go to I'm like, they're reading an AI response.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, how much of this is going to be happening in our world? And I think that's where we're going. And, I feel bad for school teachers now because the kids, that they are going to be doing this for all their papers. And we're going to have to come up with some way to put their papers through some sort of website or algorithm to see, okay, is this an AI generated paper? Or did they really write it?
I think the question I have is, does that matter? Like when calculators first came out, and I grew up, and you did as well, in the 80s, and we don't remember a day without calculators, but it wasn't that far away. My teachers would talk about using slide rules for really complicated things, right? Of course, complicated calculators wiped out the slide rule, right? By the time you and I were taking, high school physics or whatever, we were using calculators for the most part.
We were, but I remember sitting in calculus class, my very first calculus class, trying to figure out how to do it because the teacher said no calculators.
Yeah, well, we did have a little bit of that, but I think today, right? I bought my kids calculators. Like their math classes would say buy these calculators, right?
The PA 35 plus 22 or whatever.
And I think the Mafia sold them because they were like $145, and they could have been like $30, right? Anyways, I think by now we don't think of using a calculator in math class as cheating.
No,
we think of it as an assistant, right? In AI is not, going out and doing some of these queries isn't a give me. Now you can copy and paste, right? But do I really I wrote an article at theaverageguy.tv about the history of Jim Beam. I just put that in the AI, like, tell me the history of the Jim Beam company, right? I want to know more about it. Okay, all that work's been put together. It's all out on the internet. Like, if it goes and finds that for me, do I really need to, do I really need to be writing blog posts on the history of Jim Beam if anybody can search for it in AI, right? I guess what I'm saying is the importance of the written word. Like when we write blog posts now, I wonder if they're discounted a little bit because I could just go to AI and get it. Right?
Yeah, I think you're right there. And take a step back. Remember when we were doing papers and we had the Encyclopedia Britannica that we begged our parents to buy, and you had those big books on the shelves? It's no different. Right. It's just much faster to do now with technology.
Yeah, I think education is going to have to pivot on this and say and expect not. They're going to need to expect more, like instead, because okay, so now the content. They used to say write a 25-page paper because that was a challenge. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not a challenge anymore. Now we need to think like write 25 well-written pages of content that actually makes sense. Because I could use, if say I was a photographer, I could use Photoshop and make a really great, take a terrible picture and make it really great. We wouldn't have any problems with that, right? What's wrong if we're using words? What's wrong with taking a topic and making it more interesting than it was maybe coming out of AI or whatever, right?
Well, I think you're going to have to find a way to make it interpretational. Like, what are the implications of, or what are, trying to find a way to take the data that you can just gather and twist it to where you have to think of a different answer that's not just simply regurgitating fact of what's out there.
Yeah.
So the idea of creating presentations, where you're not just simply up in front of the class reading, or you're not just throwing something up, on your post that's a marketing thing. It's gonna have to be three-dimensional thinking, or as Spock would say, four-dimensional thinking.
Well, I think it's going to have to be, and this is what AI doesn't have yet, is experience.
Right.
Right. And I think we've got the stuff we need to put together. So if someone's coming to something we've written about, we've talked a lot. Well, we talked about the Nespresso, right? You and I could easily put a post together of all the benefits of using an espresso. But what AI doesn't have, and what they've actually limited it on, is an opinion, right? They don't let it say it's the best, or they don't let it say it's one of the best.
Right.
If you ask it, give me the best reasons for this, it'll say, I can't do that. I can give you some reasons. Where humans, or at least in our own experience, I think we bring experience to it to say, no, you know what? Yes, it has all these things. And maybe this is the difference where we think about in education is we can't just vomit information on papers. We actually need to have an opinion. And I'm going to say that opinion is way more important than the words written on the paper. I think professors need to be looking for opinions.
Yes.
Right. And not just the Jim Beam Corporation was formed in 1890, blah, 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 blah. You can get that anywhere, but I can't necessarily get from AI. Now we're close in some ways. I can get pros and cons. Like I can tell it, give me the pros and cons of the Nespresso or Solo Stove or whatever. Right. And it will give you some things that's learned from the internet, but that's only from other people. Now, is that value? Okay. So if AI has access to 10,000 opinions, can it have its own opinion based on those 10,000?
I mean, if you're just dealing with algorithms, no. Yeah. But if you allow it to speculate, then maybe. But that's where this whole,
scary.
At that point, is it alive?
Right. Is that one of the things that makes it sentient or makes it alive? Is like all of a sudden it goes, yeah, my opinion is you're terrible. I'm going to wipe you out. Right?
So just to give you an idea, so one of the topics that I was going to bring up was going back to a podcast you had with Christian Johnson.
Yeah.
And because I've got a customer I'm dealing with a password manager issue with them. And it was going to be, the questions about LastPass, Keeper, or Bitwarden. And so I was in perplexity going through some stuff. And I just redid it here because I asked a different way. But I said, which is better, LastPass, Keeper, or Bitwarden? And it goes through its whole thing. And then at the end, it says, ultimately, the best password manager for you would depend on your specific needs and preferences.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and maybe this is the next generation where, we talked about this when Jay was on, is that I really need AI to know me before it starts making suggestions for me. Now, I have thousands of hours of transcripts, at least at work, not so much with Home Gadget Geeks. I did that for a while and then I stopped. But I got all these transcripts. Now, we know Google behind the scenes is transcripting every YouTube video. It's there. They've got it, right? you could do a large language model just on yourself. In my case, I've got all this audio. It could know me and my preferences from maybe some of the things I've said. Now, when I've said them, I might have had a good, like LastPass, I might have had a good opinion of LastPass 6 years ago when they were a sponsor and things were going well there and we had a good relationship with them and it was a different ownership. Today, and maybe this is nuance, today, not so good. Like there's a lot of bad things going on with LastPass right now at the moment based on their ability not to keep things secure and their inability to be transparent and some of those other things. That's my opinion, right? It would, if it took the whole library of everything I've ever said, it would be confused. You used to like it, now you don't. But right, it's got to figure that out. Don't you think?
But maybe there's a way for the algorithm to start incorporating patterns of behavior, patterns of speech, and patterns of opinions, and can maybe start to sense, oh, Jim's opinion is starting to change on this. So, and it doesn't start to say Jim has soured on LastPass.
Yeah. Would that maybe that's a time element as we think about Microsoft has this, and I forget what it's called. Rich, help me out with this. In Windows, there's a function that keeps track of all the things that you do over time. Or maybe there used to be. I don't know if they're still doing that or not. The graph, social graph. Anyways,
I'm sure
doesn't
that's
matter.
still there. They've changed the name, but I'm sure it's there.
Something like that. So where it would have my opinions over time. But I think until we move into some large language model that's personal, it's going to be tough to get an opinion. And I think that's what separates us from AI is that we've got, and it may not even be rational. Like we may have reasons, like we know the owner. So we like this product over this because we like the owner, not necessarily because it's the best product, but because emotionally we like the owner.
Yeah, right? We like the owner. Their sales rep, bought me dinner one night. They paid for me to go on a trip. I mean, there's all those factors that come in. I like the way, this salesperson does their webinars. I love, there's all these factors that come in that AI just can't grasp yet.
Yeah. Well, it can't trust. Like that's one of those. I don't think it has a element. There's these words we use like trust and integrity, where it can't. I don't think today it can get that. It could trust that I have this relationship. I don't know what it is, but I trust them, right? And so it is. I think it's an interesting, certainly going back to the what we can use it for and what it's good at. I think there's a lot of great ways to use this thing.
I like it as conversation starters. I like it as research, background on either a person or topic. It does do, the pros and cons of certain things. Yeah. So
Microsoft Graph is what Rich is saying it's called. Yeah. Would you be, Marv, would it be alarming? Say you turn this over to just materials that you've either created or podcast things you said on podcasts, like your data about you, the things you've done on your computer, the documents you've created, some of those kinds of things, and said, create a large language model about me. Would you be comfortable with that?
In all honesty, no.
Yeah.
However, who's to say that they're not already doing that? I mean, you and I have been out there for years. Our voices, our stuff, we're out there. So somebody's, probably already working on that.
Yeah, that alarms me a little bit.
I mean, digital catfishing is real.
Yeah.
So, but it'll be interesting now. So that going back to the whole podcaster thing.
Yeah.
Can I just simply go to a website at some point and say, okay, the topic is XYZ. I want to make 3 points, use my voice, go. We're probably not too far away from that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you mentioned, so the Swell AI that you use.
Mm-hmm.
So I use something similar called Memento
Mm-hmm.
that I just started using. So I'm gonna have to go look at yours. And it's kind of a similar thing where when my podcast get post, it'll automatically load the podcast and it'll do an AI of the podcast where it'll do the transcript.
Yep.
It'll pick out about 10 to 15 moments that it thinks, hey, these would be good clips to throw on social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I can go over here and say, hey, what are the 10 best hashtags that I can pull out of here? Hey, write a social media post where I can publicize this on Twitter and LinkedIn. And I mean, all of that stuff is already becoming available. That it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah. It's a good, I've resisted it a little bit, just to be honest. It's all been available to me, and I've implemented some of it into Home Gadget Geeks. We haven't actually changed anything I do on the Gallup side. We're actually in a lot of conversations, with, it comes, from a business perspective and what we do from a polling perspective and news. We've got to really, really, really think about this and do this thing right.
So here's a question. And so for you, I mean, you're in the business of surveying, right? How much of that do you think might be influenced by AI responses? I mean, can that happen now, or are you truly doing? Are you doing phone surveys?
Yeah, no, it's person to person.
So there's no written survey that they can go to a website and fill out these questions and stuff like that. Okay.
No, we have a very specific methodology. We have to ask the people. There's no websites. That's not in the sample. Yeah, you have to go to a real person to get those.
Okay. Yeah. The reason I asked that is, so I have a company that reached out to me about a month ago that is a research company for the tech industry. I don't know how they found me, but I'm assuming it's because of the podcast. Yeah. And they've tagged me as a expert in the industry that can answer questions. And the first 2 were phone calls, but now I'm getting like twice a week, I'm getting, hey, we've got a survey about this vendor. Can you fill this out for us?
Yeah.
I mean, do I have time every week to do that? But they're paying me, so I do. But can I not just create and say, hey, if I get a question, here's the company I want to do some AI responses for, fill that out for me.
Right. Yeah. No. Right. Well, I mean, from a hack perspective, that might be a way to cheat the system, right? Of getting a bot to do the responses, right? In that case, and then and it would actually sound like a real person. That's the crazy thing. I think that's the crazy thing about AI is the language models have gotten so good,
right?
That it sounds really good, and you can, like you said, and I've done this too before, say it in the voice of, or make it funny. By the way, I don't think it's very good at humor, but make it funny, or, have it I said in the voice of an expert, right? Type deal. You can kind of, that honestly, that may be the, as we think about that in the areas of asking questions or getting information from people. I know there's already been, there's a lot of legislation around this. We used to call a lot. I mean, our calling centers are non-existent anymore. We used to call people to get their opinion on things. And that's, for the most part, that is completely dried up. Nobody answers their phone anymore. Yeah. Nobody wants to take a survey regardless. Now, what they do is they just go on Facebook and complain. Like that's what happens, right? If you got to pay more attention to what's going on in social media than the actual surveys, because that's where they're going to complain.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah. Marv, interesting conversation. You or I are not going to get to the bottom of this, but I think, again, I try to cover, as we think about AI, I've been trying to cover this from an average guy standpoint. Like, what do you and I think when we think about AI? I mean, there's a lot of discussions going on around this, but how does that affect us? And I think it's great to hear from your perspective what your customer. I never thought of customers defeating your systems by asking AI, hey, how do I get around this? Like, right?
Listen, our industry has been battling this for years. Here's an example. Remember the magazine, PC Mag, and God, the one that just went out of business, Maximum PC. And when I started in the business, I would wait for those to come out, and then I would just, put a tickle in my calendar, because a lot of phone calls that I would get for the next month would be people doing all the stuff that they found in those magazines. So, I think that it's going to be interesting. Now, in the hobbyist realm, I don't think it'll be that big a deal, because hobbyists are always used to going out and doing research and forums and all of that stuff. AI is really not going to be any different for them. It's the average consumer, average end user in my businesses that I support that I'm worried about. That technician that says, why are you paying somebody to come in? I can do this for us.
Yeah.
And they'll just go on to Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and say, wow, hey, how can I deploy this software without an IT administrator?
Here's the thought. Is YouTube just a version of AI with examples?
Yeah. I mean, technically that has been YouTube for the last, 10 years? Guys on YouTube. I mean, so we had an AC guy coming out, and he's like, he goes, I'm glad you guys call us, because so many people call us after they've tried the YouTube video. I mean, because there's the AC electricians are sitting there saying, don't spend $300, go buy this part for $13, and here's how you do it yourself.
Yeah. Until you said, I hadn't put these two together. I never had that thought about YouTube being an AI in some way, but it is. Like, I can go out and ask it, and then an automated answer, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
You can find about 15 different ways to do things, and you pick the one you want, and then it shows you, I fixed my dryer that way. I've done plumbing that way. I've done some electrical that way. I've needed to fix something in something small in my car, and I'd be like, okay, 2006 Honda Civic. How do I get this? How do I get to the speaker? And it shows me a video. Yeah. Like, in some ways, that's kind of what we're getting out of AI. So anyway, that's a new thought for me. Like, ooh, YouTube's kind of, well, and then what happens when we have these videos being made? I mean, today there's people making them, but couldn't YouTube's got enough stuff, right? That couldn't they kind of create their own videos that are AI voiced that do this for us?
All they've got to do is ask the right question, generate the text, throw up the appropriate picture or video.
Right. Because they have it all.
Yeah. I mean, that'll be the thing.
Yeah.
And all they have to do is match up the text with a video they could even probably go and grab it from the company's website, because there's, I'm sure there's backlinks everywhere to these videos.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. Rich says the advent of search engines made IT support a nightmare, and it's gotten really good. I mean, man, there's just so many. Listen, these people are just trying to be helpful, right? I mean, the folks on YouTube, they're just, I mean, they want hits and stuff. They want, but they're just trying to be helpful, right? I mean, the guys that show you how to fix your dryer, or the guys that show you hey, here's a weird thing about this car. You can fix it yourself this way. And you can, right? You can do it that way for not everything. I'm not going to fix my transmission, or I'm not going to do an engine. I mean, I guess I could, but I'm not going to do an engine rebuild off YouTube. But
yeah, it's, people to ask me, when people do those YouTube videos, what do they gain out of it? Because, are they taking away your business? And to some degree, not really, because what they're trying to do is say, hey, look, here's the easy things you can do. But when it gets hard, call me.
Yeah. Well, that's the difference, right? Is you're still smarter than the lowest common denominator on YouTube, or putting all the pieces together, or there's still some things that are really complex that just can't be demonstrated. I don't know. That's a crazy question. That's a crazy question. Well, certainly a good conversation around AI. And you've opened, I'm going to use the heck out of this perplexity. I mean, I think it has its place. Just as I look at it, it certainly is. It's prompts. So after you put in a prompt, it gives you 3 additional prompts of things you should be asking questions about, which is kind of interesting. It almost is like a rabbit trail where you're like, oh, I wonder where this is going to go. How deep can I go on this thing? Is very interesting. I think I'm going to have to spend some time with Perplexity and check it out. So good. That's worth the price of admission right there.
There you
go. So thanks for that one.
I brought some content.
Yeah, well, I mean, some really good content. I do want to ask you. So I have a really hard question to ask you.
Okay.
So I have, I basically am a small business here at the Collison house. I got 1,000 monitors and a bunch of PCs. I think I have 6 or 7 in the house, and I have 2 UPS backups that are, they're the average one, the 1,000 versions, whatever they are. They range from 600 to 900 watts. The PCs that I put them on, they're plenty powerful, but they're kind of consumer grade. If I plug them into the generator, they blow the breaker because they don't have the right sine wave thing going on for them or whatever. So when we lost power last night, I know not to plug the UPSs into the generator because it doesn't work. So I have to unplug them from the UPS and plug them into the power, make it work. Today, right before the show, one of the UPSs was blinking and it was making a groaning noise. And I shut it off because I'm like, all right, I have to fix it after the show. For what you've seen in this space, as you think about it, and we've talked about UPS, it's not the first time I've talked about it on the show. But I think I might be ready. If I'm going to have to replace this UPS, I'm kind of wondering, should I be thinking about spending more than, today for that big of a UPS, you're going to spend $200, let's say. Should I be thinking more about a $600 or $800 UPS to back everything up? Should I've looked at some of these solar generators that I can use as a backup in the house. They're a little more expensive. We're talking probably $1,200 to do what I want to do. What are your thoughts just as for the average guy UPS backup stuff? Have I asked you this question?
No, you've not.
Okay, good.
And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm scrolling right now through my Amazon purchases so what I've done, so I've got a generator out in my shed that I hope to never have to pull out again. It's a big, 7,500 or whatever. It's a big boy, and it's on the wheel.
I have a 6,500, so that's what I use. Yeah.
So I got to lug that thing out, and we were contemplating: do we find that AC adapter to plug it into the box so that I don't have to do all the cordage things that you were probably talking about doing? Yeah. And that's where I'm like, you know what? Just get a whole house generator.
Yeah,
and that's where I'm at with the house.
Okay.
However, in the meantime, I'm a big APC guy when it comes to battery backups. So I do all the research, and I've got the right ones I buy for servers and desktops. But I'm actually, for home use, I've actually gone to these portable power stations, and the most popular ones. I forget the name of it, but there's one that's the Blue Yeti. Blue Eddy.
Blue Eddy. Yeah.
Yep. So what I've been doing actually is we're starting to stock up on those. Now I'm not using the Blue Eddy. I'm using a similar one, and I don't see it in my history. But there's all that stuff there.
You're talking about like these, but on a bigger scale, right?
Yes, the higher end ones. So like the 1,500. One above there that you just passed, the Anchor 757 for $10.99.
Yeah, this one up here.
Yeah. So a couple of those, is about the cost you're going to pay for a really good generator. Now, of course, the gas generators are cheap. You can get those for $400 or $500, and the whole house generators, you're going to spend $4,000 to $6,000 for the unit itself, and then you got to pay for the electrical hookup and all that. So you're getting
10,
close
10 to
to
15,000 is
yeah, you're
usually
getting
what
up
you're.
there. So I've been looking at a couple of these. Now I bought one for the office that I use with my podcasting gear. So when I go out, I plug everything into that because it's got the AC outlets and all of that stuff. So we purchased. I probably need to go find the one I got, but it's a 1,000, maybe 1,100 unit that we got just for the house because when we we really don't want to go through the hassle of pulling that generator out unless we know we're going to be done for, a couple of days. So anytime we lose power for a few hours, we just simply plug in what we need to these and we're good. And they're big enough to run if we knew we were going to be out for a day, we can hook up the fridge and stuff to one. We can, have another one for our entertainment stuff. I've not used them for the computers. So I'm still with the APC. The problem with the APC is that they just don't last long enough.
Right.
These can last up to 10 hours. With the APCs, I think the biggest configuration that I have lasts me 2 hours.
Yeah, they have little tiny batteries. I mean, you get these APCs and they've got two, I don't want to say tiny, but they're only this big. They're old technology on the battery side.
They are.
You got these new ones that are.
I get the 1500 model that has a battery extender pack. So that's what gets me a little bit longer. That's what I use for all my servers. And I'm waiting for the lithium PO.
Yep, PO4.
Yeah, PO4.
Yep.
So that I'm waiting for that technology to mature because those I think are going to probably be the next generation. They'll last longer. They're cleaner, but man, they're pricey.
Yeah, they're $1,000. Now if let's say I replaced these two units, I'm at $500 for what I need. Let's say they're $200 to $250 each for the ones that I use now. I did look at the next generation up to get pure sine wave. Because this is the problem, is when I plug these lower end UPSs into the generator, they don't have pure sine waves, so they blow the breaker. It thinks it's overcharging, right? It pulls this huge draw. At first, the breaker kicks, you never get past anything. Some of the more expensive UPS devices that are kind of enterprise or whatever, $600 to $900 for that same size. So now I'm kind of thinking, this is with the thought. I'm already in that price range. It's like, and then I was thinking, well, maybe I go with Blue Eddy or Jackery or some of those, throw that in. They also accept solar power. So if I wanted to, I could run a line out to a solar panel that I put on the roof and it would charge it. Many of those also allow pass through. So if you've got them plugged in, it's going to pass the power through, not use the batteries, and only use the batteries when needed at that point, right? For the more expensive ones. They've gotten really good and sophisticated. So I priced it out. It's about $1,500 for what I need for the house. And then I think, do I really need to spend, it always ends with this discussion. Do I need to spend $1,500 on something that only happens every other year or even once a year?
That's where the rub is for you, where you're at. Probably not.
Yeah.
Here in Florida, it's a much bigger discussion because we could have a thunderstorm at any given time, take out power. We have the threat of hurricanes, all summer. So it is a discussion. And then we'll go a few years with nothing. But, we lost power for about 30 minutes just the other night. We couldn't figure out why.
Yeah. 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 And we had it up and running within 2 hours. We get severe thunderstorms or tornadoes that come through here from time to time. We've had some just go as far as, 7 miles south of us. So they're close, right? Wiped us out for about 3 days, but that's once every decade.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, am I? So this is always where this conversation lands. Start small and then I'm like, well, I could go here at the mid-range. And then I'm like, oh, I could put the whole house on a battery backup. That's actually $4,000 or $5,000 if I wanted to back up the whole house on a battery, maybe more, $4, $5, $6,000. Do I really want to do that for one time a year, or whatever? Last night, so we the power went out. My wife texted the rest of the kids, "Hey, our power's out," whatever. And my oldest says, "What's nice outside? Like, why don't you just go outside?
Step out to the deck."
Exactly. It's gonna come back on, right? And and I ran the power to so my emergency plan is you get the fridges going first because that's the most important, like protect the food, right? So I get the fridges going, and then I'm assuming I would, get my computers up running next because that's important to me, right? And then in most cases, I don't need them. I don't really need them. I mean, I can use a laptop. I could go somewhere else.
But the difference is your computers you're going to want on an actual true battery backup that when the power goes out, they stay running for at least a few minutes. Get an alternate power source there. Things like the fridge and other stuff, that'll give you time. You can go pull out stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where having, the Blue Eddy or something similar close by where you just run it over there, plug it in for a few minutes. Of course, the fridge, you got to probably pull out, to get to the gourd.
No, I've actually got the plugs now in a spot where I can just move them to
there you go.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. I just the way I set it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, Marv, I think I'm over engineering it, right?
I think so too. And at least for you and your neck of the woods and for the amount of time. Yeah. For me, I've had to think about that. And it's okay. What can I live with or not live with for 30 minutes?
Right.
And that's where we're at. So my biggest fear now is our office is not on a, any sort of generator. And I'm thinking, okay, I need to do something here, but I don't want to spend the money because I'm leasing.
Right.
I'm not going to buy the building because it's too much money. So I'm literally, 3 minutes from my house. So what can I do there that if power went out here, I can run home and power everything up there? So that's why we're investigating the whole house generator.
Yeah.
But, investing in those, those power packs as a temporary, stopgap.
Yeah. Well, listen, the ladies in the house last night didn't panic for 1 second. Like even my wife, she was sitting on the couch and it was fully reclined and it's, one of those, it's all like, she's like, well, I guess I'm stuck in the recline position. And I was like, well, and it literally it's so funny. I get so bent about losing power. For me, it's really about losing food. That's what I get paranoid about, right? I have this unhealthy relationship with it, and I get all amped up if I think we're going to waste food, right? So
you know how you solve that? Do you have a portable ice maker?
No.
Oh, you got to get one of those.
Well, yeah. Well, I've got most of it solved. The funny thing is the girls didn't even panic for a second. They were like, Sarah bought these portable lights. I should have brought them over. And they literally just go, and you lift them up and the lights come on. They were like $7, right? Something like that each. And they were great for those kinds of emergency situations. And then I was like, Sammy was like, well, if we can get a fan running at some point, that'd be nice. And I was like, how can you live your life so simply? I'm thinking about how do I continue to cryptocurrency mine?
I need Wi-Fi. Come on.
Could I do a podcast with the generator on? I could, by the way. I could get it done. But it's just it's crazy when I start thinking about this. And the lithium phosphate PO4, whatever those are, LIFE PO4. Those are the batteries that have amazing cycles, like 3,500 cycles now before 80%. Those are really good now. And I sometimes think like, I could probably just buy one of those, power all of them. It would be a backup solution. It's probably going to be $400 to $500 more than I'd pay for regular UPSs. They would probably last a lot longer. And I'd have this cool little device sitting where I could monitor. I'd have another monitor, right? Because they all have those cool little readouts on them. I don't know, Marv. I've almost pulled the trigger on a few of these. And I get down to it and I'm like, you know what? A $200 UPS to replace the one that's going out would be just fine.
Listen, I think a couple more years, though, those prices will come down.
Yeah. 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 Well, you got any other advice for me?
I just gave you one, the ice maker. Get a portable ice maker.
Well, here's what's ironic. The fridge will last as long as you don't open it.
Right.
Like, you get 12 hours.
But we got the ice so that, if power is out, we've got the coolers in the garage. We can generate ice. I hooked that up to the portable power station. We can make ice, and we can, at least keep our drinks cool. We can put ice in the fridge.
Yeah.
If it does go pretty long.
Not to pimp HelloFresh, but HelloFresh sends those. They have these like gel packs that they put in every single box. And for a while, I was just saving those in one of the freezers. Yeah. And then you can, in a power outage, you can just start taking them out of the freezer and putting them in the fridge.
Yep.
And it's enough, right? It's enough to kind of, for any short term, I wouldn't want to go any more than overnight. But at one point, Sarah came down. She goes, like, do we really need 57 of these things? And I'm like, probably not. And then I thought, well, then my brain went, maybe I need a HelloFresh freezer that just has HelloFresh packets in it that I could then distribute around. And then you're like, Jim, you have a sickness. You have a sickness. It's not the end of the world. Just get over it. That's where you spend $5 to save a nickel. Right. And well, thanks for walking me through that again. It was just fresh because we just lost power last night. And now that UPS is beeping and it's driving me nuts. And it's not the normal beep like my battery's bad. Like I said, it's like this groaning beep. Like,
how old is it?
6, 7 years old. It's old.
Oh, it's time to go. It's
yeah.
Florida, we've got a 3-year cycle on those.
Yeah. No,
we replace the battery after 2, and then the next time it goes, we replace.
Listen, Marv, I will buy $1,000 Anchor 757 portable power thing, but I won't drop $200 on it. Cheap. Like, because it's just not as cool, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
These things are pretty cool. The other problem that keeps me from it, they're so cool. Do I really just want to leave it sitting on the basement floor? I mean, yeah, I've got a lot of things plugged into it, but do I really want to just leave it sitting on those kinds of things? They're meant to take out and impress people with, like, we're camping and we have power and we're cool. Right. Yeah.
I was just looking. So NextPow is the model, the brand of the one that I got. So they have a Solar Station 2000 Life PO4 battery with 4 outlets, fast charging, 900-watt input, solar generator for home backup, camping and RVs, $999.99.
Yeah, it's $1,000. It's $1,000, and it would bring everything in for me. Could I do that? No, I really need about 12 or 1,300 down here to be able to. So I need a little more. I need a little more than 900. I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay.
I think between all my 3, 6. No, maybe I could get away with it, because I think right now I have 2 600 watts and I use about 400 on each, so that's about 800. But then there's no room for growth.
Yeah.
Well,
a refrigerator or freezer for up to 18 hours.
Yeah. Guess what I'm gonna? Well, listen, I'd only buy one of these to power the computers, right? That's one of those, to be honest, that's one of those where I want to plug everything into one thing, and then when the power goes off, everything stays on, and it gives me really enough time. Those small little UPSs last 7 minutes, maybe 15 if you're lucky.
15 to 20, I think.
With a new battery and the wind blowing behind you and all those other kinds of things, right? Going downhill, those kinds of things. So I'd really like more like 30 to 45 minutes, just leave everything on, unplug it from the wall and plug it into the power cord I bring in from my generator, and then just have the generator start charging it. That's the ideal situation. And so if I could get
look at the 1500 model with the battery extender. Now they're big. I'm not going to lie. They're they're like a little suitcase.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking, and it was way more important during the pandemic because I was working at home all the time. Now I'm going in 5 days a week. So like it's not as if the computers didn't work here, I just go to work, it's not as big of a deal as it was, but it just reminded me like, can I make this again, make it a little more simple? All the utility fridge stuff down here is on a single plug. And I literally just unplug it and plug it into the generator socket or into the generator power. Everything powers back up. It's one
There you go,
ready to go. So I don't know. You know what I'm gonna I'm gonna obsess about all weekend now. Thanks, Marv.
I'm gonna have to listen to the beginning of next week's show to see what you did.
Did I buy one? Did I buy one or not? I don't know. I've got a couple thousand, maybe $5,000 worth of carpet coming in, so maybe I should hold off on. Yeah. Right. Well, for the regular listeners, I'll say this. So, a couple weeks ago, we lost our cat, which has been a big member of the family for a long time, and it was tough. It was like I didn't podcast the next week. It was really, really like it was a member of our family. We'd had this cat for like 20 years. But I'd been saying for the last 10, like, okay, when he goes, we're going to recarpet the whole house because, it's cat, right? They barf all over it and some of those kinds of things. So we waited and waited and waited. So this cat held on forever, right? I mean, it was just like, so we really miss him. But in fact, my daughter knitted me a desk cat. This is super cool. So my daughter knitted this for me. I said, "Hey, would you make me a little?" He was an all black cat.
Okay, I was going to say, does that look like him with the eyes?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. She did a great job. So Sammy, thanks for doing that. But I said we'd replace all the carpet. So guess what we're doing right now? Tomorrow, one of the guys is coming over to measure for the downstairs and upstairs.
I hear you. We had cats. Well, we had 3 for the longest time. We're down to 1, and we're waiting for that so we can remove the carpet in our bedroom and put down tile.
Yeah.
So,
well,
position.
The bill is coming due, so to speak. And I'm actually kind of anxious for it. I've been waiting a long time to replace some of the carpets in here, and I just didn't want to do anything until that situation happened. But it was, it was hard. Like I didn't realize just how hard. Like he's been our only pet for 20 years, and you think, oh, he's gone. This is weird. Like I was way more emotional than I thought I was going to be, but it was good. It was all good. So. It was $5,000 good as this new carpet is coming in this week. So, well, Marv, thanks for coming out and can you hang with me for 1 second as I wrap this thing up? A couple reminders on the way out. One, don't forget the AverageGuy.tv powered by Maple Grove Partners, and that's Christian. We mentioned him a little bit earlier. Get high-speed, secure, reliable high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust, and of course that's Christian. I think he's still doing $10 plans, and so if you need a site. For any reason, he'd love to host it for you. Maple Grove Partners, all one word, maplegrovepartners.com. I mentioned HelloFresh a little bit earlier, and of course, we're big on them. We're still doing 2 meals a week. Super awesome. And I couldn't imagine. I'd be super sad if we stopped doing them. $110 off your first 5 boxes if you check it out at theaverageguy.tv/HelloFresh. And change the way I eat. Marv, you said you're trying to eat a little more healthy. And HelloFresh has changed that for me. We're eating a lot more healthy, which is great. Just a great way. They taught me a lot. Taught me a lot about cooking, which I just didn't expect that to happen. You can contact the show, Jim at theaverageguy.tv. Subscribe, rate, review, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff if you want to and if it's important to you. We appreciate you guys and we appreciate you listening. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern out here at theaverageguy.tv/live, and would love to have you come out as well. As I was cleaning up the document for the shows coming up, I closed it instead of and looking at it. I'm pretty sure Dan Lefebvre is next week. Dan, I know you were listening. If you're not next week, don't panic. Anyways, I think it's next week, and then I think in 2 weeks we have Bob and Ryan back on from Think Computers over at thinkcomputers.org, and we'll look forward to having them as well. But we'd love to have you join us live. There's a few of you doing that here tonight, but if you haven't joined us live, come out and try it. Give it a shot. If you've listened all the way to this part, like you're the most engaged listener that I have. Come out and join us live. Seriously, just once. Love to have. We don't get anything out of it. I just love to see you. And we'll see you next time. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.